March 31st. It's 2026. Just got my Liberty transmission back together, my 309. And this is part 2, so let's get right to it. First off, I'd like to thank Dan Brewer up in Ohio. Great people to work with. Lots of inventory. Not cheap, but they will get you what you need and pull your bacon out of the fire if you've done something you're not supposed to do. So thank you, Dan and Lisa. Here is the, I didn't want to talk about this at all, and you guys that build 4-speeds know all this stuff. 2 common Chrysler transmissions, 833 4-speeds. There's a 23 spline, which is what this is, 23 input splines, and there's an 18, which is referred to as a Hemi gearbox. I don't have a Hemi gearbox. I run a billet front throw-out bearing retainer. I run a hydraulic throw-out bearing on the clutch. It rides right here, and this is what keeps it from spinning. There is a ring on your front bearing. It goes in that groove. That bearing is what keeps that bearing from pushing back in the back of your transmission. You've got to, there's a little groove inside here that little ring sits in, and then you line up the gasket, put all your bolts in nice and tight. If you don't get that in there right, you'll get a pretty good sized gap in between here, and that's when you know you got a problem. You're going to have a leak, you're going to break something. Make sure you spend some time on that. Also, a seal up here. Always replace that seal if you don't know the age of your transmission. I go in this thing all the time. So up front here, this is a gasket that I make. It covers the steel bushing here that the steel shaft that the cluster rides on comes through both ends of the main case. I put RTV up here, I sandwich a gasket. When I push it up against the bell housing, this sandwiches it, keeps that red line heavy shock weight oil from leaking out. And I don't really like leaks, so that's why I do that right there. Speaking of bearings, my case uses a 308 front bearing, commonly referred to as a Hemi bearing. Uses a 307 case bearing for the output shaft. You see the difference in the size. Much bigger bearing. All right, so this is the shaft that supports the counter shaft cluster. What you see here is a stock one. Got a little age on it, some wear. This is one that I had made, and what we did is we cut it so that it just barely slips into the main case. And the reason for that will become apparent. On either end, there's thrust bearings. I use a little bit of gasket sticky on them, hold them in the case. There's one of these on either end. So on this shaft, what you do is you build it up. This goes in the center, but on either end, you put a ring, you put 19 bearings, another ring, 19 bearings, then you put this big steel spacer, 19 needle bearings, ring, blah, 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 blah. So you got that. You got the whole thing built up. And the dummy shaft here, this piece that gets made, holds it all in place. And then what happens is you, either for the front or rear, once you get everything lined up, and what I do, my little hack, is I put tie wraps around the front and the back of that bottom shaft, because the problem is that the Liberty stuff is so big, the cluster has to be in the bottom of the case to get all the Liberty parts in. Once you get them in, and it's sitting on the input shaft, and it's all good, then I use these tie wraps on a rod up here, and I slowly tighten up the tie wraps, and it pulls that cluster up into place. It aligns these thrust bearings, and once everything is aligned, you just slowly push your new good shaft in there. It pushes this special made tool out of the back or front, however you go, and then when you get done, you leave this in because it fits the case. You put your little key in here and you're done. So I just want to go over there. That's one way of slaying the dragon. I've seen people stand them up straight, stand the whole transmission up straight so you don't have so much weight on the cluster. And if you've ever fought it with these thrust bearings floating around and you've dropped a bearing out of there, ooh, that's no fun. So here you can see the Liberty gears and everything. This is the new third gear, corresponding new cluster because it tore up that. You see the paddles. And Liberty made the paddles. They made these, I call sliders. Kind of wanted to show you power flow. So you come in here. This is turning by the engine. It comes in here, drops down, and then whatever gear you select, that's where the power flows, because these two are meshed together. So let's say we go into first gear, which is the very back one. We just push this back. Now it locks the output shaft to the input shaft. Power comes in, drops down, goes all the way down here, goes up, goes out. And that's how power is transferred through the transmission. Then you go on second, you just pull it up into second. Same deal. Power transfers now through the second gear here. Yada, yada, yada. All this stuff is floating around right now. Your shifter is what's holding those things in their place, okay? And when you go to reverse, and I always seem to have a little issue with this. Okay, now we're in reverse. So this little idler wheel down here is reversing the direction of this gear here. And as you go one way in, now it's going the other way out. That's reverse. And like I said, the shifter is going to hold this in the right place, so that works like a champ. Rear case. This is a direct connection case that I bought at Mopar Nats decades ago. It weighs 10 pounds. A steel one weighs 20. Little plug for Speedo. I don't use a switch on backup. And then again, we talked about the case. No serial numbers, no part numbers on the case. My side cover, I use a steel side cover. Ball and detent. When you pull these, there's a little spring in there. Goes in just one gear. Yada, like that. All this is controlled by your shifter. This is a Liberty front shift fork. I use a brass Mopar rear fork in my transmission. And let's see, I use a little anti-seize on these aluminum case here. When you go to put your side cover up, all these bolts are kind of special. You need to get them in the right place. But you notice this one is a little deeper. Uses a shouldered bolt. When you put it in there, locates your case side cover so that all this stuff works like it's supposed to, and you're in the right position. So this isn't trivia. When you make sure you got all the right bolts. If you don't have them, Dan can sell them to you. And then anyway, I think that's about it. I think you guys get the gist. Hoping to get this in the Colt soon. Thanks for watching. I'm just an old guy in a garage making mistakes. Made a video yesterday, and when I got finished, I'd put part of the transmission together backwards. I think it might be this piece here that I'm playing with. But anyway, took it all back apart and got it all straightened out. So all that stuff in there is just like the FSM, factory service manual. Okay, people, thank you for watching and subscribing. If you got any questions, comments, please leave them. And I hope you had found some value. If you did, subscribe and like, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.